Well, welcome everyone to this month's Nourish class. I so appreciate you being here today. My name is Shanna Hutton. I am president of the board of directors for Positive Community Kitchen. This class is a collaboration between Positive Community Kitchen, Oregon Cancer Foundation, as well as Whole Foods. And it is meant as an educational environment that you can ask questions and you can glean some really great tips on how to utilize healthy food within your own kitchen. So this time of year for me, welcome to summer. I love this time of year. The summer sun just makes me want to pull out a picnic blanket and sit in the summer sunshine. So tonight we're going to be using that as inspiration, we're going to be doing some picnic-friendly meals or dishes today. We're going to start with a wild rice and kale salad that is packed full of nutrients as well as protein and is very sturdy, so it holds very well, specifically outside. And then we're going to move on and do our dessert, which is a lemon bar. The freshness of that lemon is really going to highlight that sunshiny flavors. So we're going to get started with our salad today. And to start off, we are going to grab our kale. So kale is a leafy green vegetable, one of the best foods that is beneficial for your body. When kale comes, this is large leaf kale, and when it comes like this, and there's a stem right down the center of it, and so you do have to strip the kale. When you're buying organic kale, a lot of times you'll see little holes and things like that from different bugs. Kale tends to be bugs love it, and so they just gravitate towards it. And I kind of think, I try and buy as organic as possible just because I don't want the toxins of the pesticides. So in my opinion, if it's good enough for the bug, it's good enough for me. So we are going to strip this kale, and we're just going on both sides of the stem that runs in the middle, and we're just going to strip it down like this. Take it off, so you're left with this. You can compost that or throw it away. And then you're just going to chop the kale into bite-sized pieces. And so I have a whole bowl that I've done that to. Now kale tends to be a little bitter, and it tends to be it's a very hardy leaf. And so what I was taught growing up is that if you put a little olive oil on it and you kind of massage it with your fingers, it breaks down some of that bitterness, and it actually is far more palatable. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some olive oil, and I'm just going to drizzle a little bit on here, and we're just going to give this kale a nice little swish with our fingers. And you can sing a little song. You just want to get in there and massage those leaves till all of them are coated with that olive oil. And we're just trying to break down that fibrous material. And so once all of those leaves are coated and you've given every leaf a little bit of love, you can put it in your bowl, right here, your salad bowl. And then the next portion is our wild rice. Now we've talked about rice before, but I'm gonna remind you again, the darker the rice, the better it is for you. So white rice is pretty much stripped of all of its nutritional components. Brown rice still has the husk on, which is very high in fiber. If you move even further dark than that, you have your black rices and your wild rice. Wild rice is actually has 2 times the protein content than brown rice, and it has 30 times the nutritional content than white rice. So it's very, very nutritious for you and a great addition to your healthy diet. So we're going to add that in here. This is cooked rice that I've already cooked just for time's sake. But usually the ratio with wild rice is about 2 1/3 of water or broth. If you were trying to add a little bit of flavor, you can actually do it in broth as well. 2 1/3 cup of water with about 1 cup of rice, and that gives you about 3 cups of rice in the end. And you cook it down for about 45-50 minutes, somewhere thereabouts. And when the wild rice is done, it starts to open up, it starts to bloom a little bit and gives you that variation of color, and so it looks really pretty. So in addition to this, we are also going to add some apples. I'll take my apple here. What I love about this salad, it really has some great profile components to it. You have the bitterness of the kale, but that bitterness is balanced out with some sweetness of the apples. It's got some acidity that goes into the dressing, so it's really quite a wonderful kind of combination of flavors in your mouth. So we're going to take our apple. Apple is one of those fruits, like I stressed, for a lot of fruits and vegetables. If the color of the skin is different than the color of the flesh, it means it has different nutrients in it, and it's super important, if you can, to leave it on. So we're going to leave our skin on the apple and just chop it up into into bite-sized pieces. Ooh. This, I believe, is what do they have down there? This is a Fuji apple. I tend to like more crisp apples, so if you're looking in the realm of crispness, you're looking at Fuji apples, Honeycrisp apples, which we all love. The Gala apples, Pink Lady apples are actually one of my kids' favorites because they're so nice and crisp and sweet. But you could utilize any, if those aren't the flavors of apples that you prefer, you could do green apples here. It would just add that little bit, even a little bit more tartness to the recipe. So we've got our apples going into our bowl. Apples are really high in fiber. They have great phytonutrients in them that's really great for your immune system. So once we have our apples chopped up over here, we're going to move on. We're going to actually add some celery, about 2 stalks of celery. Celery is really low in calories, but really high in nutrients. It is great for your digestive system. I'm just going to take the ends off on either side. And then I'm going to run my knife down the center and get it a little bit smaller of a piece. And then I'm going to take my knife and just run it through so you get those crisp bites of celery that are really going to be a good texture component into your salad. So what I've done here is I've peeled the orange, and then I've broken it apart into its sections, and then I've just chopped it into bite-sized pieces. So super easy. It looks beautiful still within the salad. So we're going to add the oranges into here. We also, to this salad, we've got some cherries, some dried cherries, and some dried cranberries. And so in order to break this down and have them more pervasive throughout the salad, I'm just going to give them a quick chop. And usually berries, for the most part, are super high in antioxidants, really great for detoxifying your cells. So they're a great addition. And then these little I love the fact that I have a little bit of tartness from the cranberries and then also that sweetness from the cherries. So when you grab a bite, you really don't know what flavor component you're going to get. So it's kind of a little surprise, but it works beautifully. All right, so now that I've chopped these up, I'm going to put them in my salad as well. This is looking lovely. And now we're going to start working on our dressing. Now I hadn't made this salad in quite a number, probably about a year or so. This is in the PCK cookbook if you're interested. But I recently made it for an event that we had, a fundraising event that we had, and I kind of fell in love with it. And I was just so enamored by how quick, how easy, how delicious it is. And one of the things I love about it is the dressing is just so simple, and you make it in a mason jar, you shake it up a little bit, and then you put it onto the salad. We've got some shallot that we're gonna add in. Shallots are part of that onion family. I think that, they have a little bit calmer of a taste than an onion does. So I love the taste of shallots within dressings and things like that, especially if you don't like that pungent, taste of an onion and what that adds, the flavor that adds. So we're just gonna chop this into little pieces. Shallots are really interesting. Shallots and onions are a really interesting vegetable because most vegetables, as you cook them, lose a lot of their nutritional components. But with shallots and onions, they actually don't. And the nutritional components are actually leaked into whatever it is that you're cooking in. So they're really highly nutritious vegetables, root vegetables. So you want about quarter cup to a half cup of shallots. So to this, we're gonna add some apple cider vinegar, about a tablespoon. Apple cider vinegar is incredibly healthy for your body. It helps to detoxify your cells, rid your body of the toxins. It's highly acidic, obviously, but also very alkalizing for your body, so it helps that pH level. We are also going to add some agave nectar. This is going to help sweeten it, and again, kind of balance out the flavor profile that we have going on in the salad itself. I'm gonna use about a tablespoon, and then we're going to add some orange juice. The orange juice is really going to act as not only add some sweetness, but also that acidity that we're looking for the dressing. And that's one of the things that I love about this salad is it really does highlight that fresh orange citrus flavor. It kind of gets highlighted throughout the whole salad. So we're going to add juice of a whole orange. We're also going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard, about a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. The Dijon mustard is going to help emulsify. It's going to add kind of a sharpness in flavor, but it's also going to help emulsify that oil and the vinegar together. And then we're going to add some olive oil. So we're going for about a tablespoon of olive oil. Olive oil just doesn't want to work with me. Olive oil is incredibly healthy for you. It's full of good fats for your body, but even as we know, having too much of a good thing can be possible. So what we're going to add to this dressing now is I'm going to add some water, and that's going to take down the fat content of the dressing. I have been somewhat dabbling in replacing oils with water, also replacing with some of the dressings. You can replace them with broth and things like that, especially if you're making a balsamic vinaigrette. And it really helps to lessen the fat content of that dressing and make it sometimes a little bit more healthy for you. So we're going to add some water in here to replace some of that oil that we would have added. The ratio to that is usually about 3-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1. So we're going to then put some salt and pepper. We got salt and we got a little pepper. That salt is going to add some flavor. It's also going to enhance some of the flavors that are also within the salad itself. And I have my lid here, and we're going to give this a shake. Pretty easy breezy. And then, now I usually, when I'm making my own dressings and things like that, I usually start with about half of the dressing, taste it, see how it goes, and then add some more if it's needed. And this dressing holds really well in the fridge, so if you don't end up using all of it, you can definitely utilize it for other salads. You can also, it makes a great chicken breast marinade, so you can just pop it in there and then you have kind of an orange chicken breast marinade that's delicious. So then we have our lovely salad. What I'm gonna do is put this right in front of me. There we go. And then I'm just going to get that dressing coated on all of those lovely flavors. And usually with a salad like this, I'll start with a little bit of dressing, like I said, and then I'll add just a little bit more, because I feel like with a lot of salads, you put the dressing on, it tastes good, but then half an hour later, the dressing has soaked into whatever it is that's in the, and you lose some of that flavor. So I'm gonna add in just a little bit more dressing. There we go. Especially with that rice, because that rice will soak up a little bit of that dressing along the way, especially if you're at a picnic and it's just sitting there waiting to be eaten. So this looks amazing, fabulous. And then to garnish it, I'm just going to take a little bit of green onion. And cut it super thin. We want thin slices. Again, we're adding another flavor component here. Perfect. And a wonderful addition to the top so that the garnish looks beautiful. And then take a little towel, wipe down the edges, just so it looks like you've taken your time. There we go. And then in the end, you have this beautiful salad. Yeah. Okay, well, while you enjoy your salads, we'll move on to our next recipe, which is a lemon bar recipe. I was kind of challenged with this. I've been trying to formulate a recipe for a healthy lemon bar for a while. And I always get caught up in the lemon curd, and I mean, how do you get that texture on the bottom that everybody loves, that flaky crust? And so I usually test out my recipes with my girls, and yesterday when I was testing out this recipe, they were over the moon excited about how great these lemon bars were. So I'm really excited to share this recipe with you as well. So this is actually doesn't take a lot of time, but it does take a little bit of diligence. And so as we move through this, I'll tell you what to pay attention to as we continue on with the recipe. But we're gonna start with some almond flour. Almond flour, this is a super fine flour. Usually in my baking, I tend to shy away from almond flour because it's a bit heavy. But for this recipe, because that base needs some structure to it, it really works really well. This is, like I said, a super fine almond flour that I found even just downstairs in the flour section. And we're gonna add a cup and a half. Almonds are really high in omega-3s, really great for your heart. We're gonna add some tapioca flour, or some tapioca starch. It's actually the same thing, about 5 tablespoons. And then we're gonna add a little bit of salt. And I usually add salt to my sweets, just a little bit to help enhance that flavor, especially if I'm trying to cut back on sugar. And that salt really helps enhance the sweetness that's in the recipe. Perfect. And now we're gonna start adding in some of our wet ingredients. So to this, I have some honey. So about 2 tablespoons of honey. And the great thing about this recipe is there's really, with a lot of lemon bars, a lot of sweets, a really high sugar content. I'm not using any refined sugars here, so it's totally sweetened with honey. And there's really quite little honey going into this recipe. There's some in the base and there's some in the topping, but it's really not that much. So it's interesting when you have a flavor component like lemon, just how beautiful it is just highlighted in on its own. So we've got our honey in there. I'm also using some ghee. Now if you didn't have ghee at home, you could substitute just regular butter. You could use coconut butter, any vegetarian butter. Ghee is clarified butter, and it's gotten a lot of attention in the past few years as being a healthier version of butter. And what is done is, if you know what clarified butter is they melt the butter very slowly, and all of the lactose solids come floating to the top. They skim those off, and what is left is a very crystal clear kind of butter that you would use for like dipping in crab and seafood and things like that. It is really nutritious for you. It's a better option as far as butter is concerned, and I'm highlighting it here in this recipe just because we haven't talked about it before, and it is a great option to include into baking as well as utilize on toast, or you can saute vegetables with it. The great thing about this is because it has no lactose solids in it, milk solids in it, it has a higher cooking temperature. So when browning butter and things like that, usually those are the milk solids that are being browned, and so this is also a great sauteing fat to use as well. So we're going to add our ghee into our food processor, and we're going to also add a little bit of vanilla. Pop the lid on this and get it all combined together. And what you're looking for here is when it all starts to look kind of that crumbly, you're looking for that crumb mixture that you would be looking for if you were normally doing kind of the base to a traditional lemon bar. So I'm going to get one more whirl. And then I'm going to get my pan. So I have an 8x8, you can also use a 9x9, but what's important here is making sure that you prep the pan before you put any of the base into it. So I'm going to use some of my leftover ghee here and just kind of smother that onto the base so it doesn't stick. There's nothing like having a sticky base that just ruins. They looked all beautiful in the pan, and then you try and get them out, and they come out all crushed and mangled. So we're going to protect against that and just make sure that we are prepping our pan beforehand. And then we're going to take our beautiful crumb mixture and put it into our pan, like so. With a little help, it will come out. Wonderful. All right. And then we're going to use our fingers, the best utensil there is, and just press it down into the base of the pan. Now what you're going to do here is, once this is all pressed down, you will have a preheated oven at 350, and you're going to put this into the 350 oven for about 10 minutes until it kind of gets a very light golden brown. So what you're doing is you're par baking it a little bit. So we're going to prep this, and then we'll put it into our oven down here. And we're going to move on. While that's in the oven, we're going to move on to our lemon curd. Now, when you get to this stage, you need to be really diligent. And it doesn't take a lot of time. It takes about 3 minutes. But it can go from amazing, beautiful, silky smooth lemon curd to scrambled eggs in a matter of seconds. So make sure you use the bathroom, make sure that your phone is close by, make sure that your children are not screaming at you, so you can actually pay attention. And so what we're going to add to our sauce pot here is we're going to add some eggs. How I like to crack my eggs, just a little tidbit, is not on the sides of things. You see a lot of people cracking them on the sides of bowls and things like that. You run a really high risk if you crack it on the edge of something of breaking down the shell and actually getting a shell into your egg. And so it's actually more beneficial if you crack it on a level surface. And you get less eggshells into your eggs that way. So we have 4 eggs. Eggs are really high in protein. They're actually really high in a nutrient called psyllium. Super healthy for you, high in omega-3s. And then we're also going to add to this some yolks, just 3 yolks. Okay. And then to this, we're going to add some more honey to sweeten it up a little bit. And we have about a 1/2 cup being utilized here. And then we're going to add some lemon. Now you want about a 1/2 cup of lemon, which works out to be about 2 lemons. You could use lemon juice, pre-juice or bottled lemon juice. But I prefer to use fresh. I think it really highlights the flavor a little bit more. I think it goes a long way. So we're going to juice our lemon into our eggs and honey mixture. Lemons, just like apple cider vinegar, they are acidic in taste, but they are incredibly alkalizing for your body. They help that pH level and keep you healthy and ward off disease, specifically cancers and things like that. So if you can incorporate some of those vinegars, some of the citrus from a lemon, it really helps your body and is incredibly beneficial. So we're gonna just continue to juice our lemons here. One more. Okay. And then I'm going to take my whisk, and I'm going to whisk this together first before I put the heat on. All right, so I'm right here, so I'm going to turn on my heat. And at this stage of the game, you want to stay very close by and just continually whisk. You're going to add a few things to this as you're whisking. So I'm going to grab my vanilla, and I'll add a bit of vanilla. Vanilla is going to be that flavor component in the background that helps highlight that sweetness. And then you're going to add some more ghee. The same. So again, if all you had at home was butter, you could definitely use that as a substitute. But we're going to add the ghee into here, like this. Fabulous. And what you're looking for here is really for that ghee to melt within this mixture. And as you whisk, the mixture is going to start, that egg is going to start to tighten up, and it's going to create a thickening agent, and it's going to start to resemble somewhat like pudding. And that's when you want to take it off the heat. You'll get a few, as the mixture gets warmer and warmer, you'll get a few bubbles that kind of form on the top, and you can kind of tell that that's kind of almost getting to the point where you're going to have to take it off the heat. But I've got a few more ghee pieces in there that are still melting, but we are almost there. Fabulous. And then once all of your butter has melted, this can come off the heat. Perfect. This can come off the heat, and what we're going to add is some coconut milk. Coconut milk, in this instance, I'm using to balance out that lemon flavor, kind of take away a lot of the super tart and kind of make it a little bit more muted, or a little bit more sweetness. And it also is going to help to add some creaminess to the mixture as well. So we're going to add our coconut milk into there. And then once this you can take this off, and at this point in time, you've taken out your crust that you've put in the oven, and you're going to put this mixture into the crust, and then you're going to put it back into the oven at 350 and bake it for another 10 minutes. And when you have what you have that comes out is some beautiful lemon bars. What you're looking for when you take it out of the oven is really that glossy sheen on the top, and you can tell that when you go to take it out of the oven, it's not as jiggly as it was when you put it in. And so the middle, what you're aiming for is the middle is a little less, or the middle is no longer jiggly, is when you know that and it takes about 10 minutes or so. So those are the beautiful lemon bars. But I am so delighted that you were here today to cook with me. It is so inspiring for me to be in front of you, educating and hopefully inspiring you to go home and utilize some of these recipes in your own kitchen. So thank you for being here.